border, and Regnant picked defense on that, which is not anything weird, but also it still is like border swinging attack sided as of late. And so it's interesting to still see that Regnant is comfortable rather on the defense, whereas a bunch of other uh, a bunch of other teams will start attack. I don't know why I brain farted on that, but jumping into border here now, we're going to go ahead and see the bands come out. Ying, Thatcher, Mira, and Echo. So a common, pretty commonplace couple of bands as of late now. And we're
Yeah,
going to
and
Events Workshop first too.
even though we saw that that nerf come through uh, straight onto the live servers for Ying very recently, which is a pretty quick response to a lot of concerns people had about Ying. Um, she's still a very powerful choice and rightfully banned out in this instance. Obviously, Border can be um, a bit of a claustrophobic map to defend for the anchors at the best of times. You're often relying on uh, a few picks here or there before the attackers get to the site than, say, uh, in contrast to, say, like a map like Clubhouse, where you can turtle up on the bottom floor and maybe try and pick some players off before they get near you with C4s and the whatnot. But a lot of the time, you'll just be taking the fights as they come to you rather than kind of extending out. Obviously, Border doesn't even really support too much roam play either, so it's one of the harder maps to defend in the pool for certain. But we're going to be starting out on this armory defense, as you may expect for most teams. And we're seeing a Kaid as well as that Jaeger Wamai combo that's being so heavily utilized at the moment.
Yeah, so even though also that in the recent patch that Goyo got nerfed, he's still seen some play up here. He's still being used in a lot of these stall out strats that have been set up. So we'll see him alongside the castle also helping with that Wamai Jaeger to just stall out as much as possible and deny what they can. The first Goyo shield is going to go down as the attack is in full swing here, taking the upstairs, and it's one tap to find the first pick on the Scorpio. The Goyo does go down as now the mute is getting, or rather the castle's getting swung on, my bad. And Goro is able to pick him up after Louis takes down one tap. But it's still a good advantage here for UX on the attack, as it's Pelican and Monster upstairs. Pelican, though, able to get Christ. And now the attack is starting to have to play a little safe and stall out a bit, as they just need to focus on Monster, and they don't seem to know fully where he is until now.
I was completely wrong earlier, by the way. I said that this was a armory defense. Obviously, you can see there's in fact vents that they've gone down to, and this hold on the top floor almost completely dealt with now. Lucania finally finding Monster there as the Jaeger, the final bastion of defense on that top floor. And now we have two defenders below. That's the Wamai and the Kaid trying to fight up through these holes. Potentially, it's actually Sky Nexus is going to be playing inside of Customs, and perhaps out of reach of UX for the time being, and maybe he'll slip their notice. But Pangoro is certainly not going to let Pelican slip by him, and that's him gone. So it's all up to the Kaid now in this 1v3. CCSG in hand, doesn't have any C4, but he's probably quite starved of intel as well, looking at the lineup. But a great little one-tap there onto Pangoro, and he looks like he may find the second, but he doesn't quite nail it. Rabinshu gonna find that one, and that's a first round on the attack going to UX Gaming.
Yeah, so a really good finish up there on the attack. Able to secure that round, and now we'll have to see where round 2 takes us, as I don't think they'll head back to Armory, or rather Vents Workshop. that defense got kind of picked apart systematically upstairs, even though there was a good couple of picks traded out thereafter. The I think it was Pelican falling there down the hatch, or rather retreating down the hatch on the Wamai. Uh, Definitely put Monster in an awkward position at the half wall to just be stuck all on his lonesome. And from there, like I said, the rest of the defense got picked apart. So up to armory lockers we go. The true upstairs defense rather than holding upstairs for a downstairs defense. As now the Goyo shields are set up as well. He's been stuck here, but instead of a castle and Kaid, we're seeing Smoke and Valkyrie. Valkyrie pretty prevalent on border here, so as of late, but at least the IQ is being constantly held here by one tap.
Looks like we're going to see a Falcon come out, and he was detected as he made that, so should be an easy spot for UX once they do get to that side, as long as they don't forget about it. They are mostly spawning on this south side of the building, so that will be an important thing to get if they do begin to apply pressure from that Archives balcony position. But it looks as though CCTV is what's on their mind, as well as East Airs Control, obviously one of your first ports of call as an attacker, and it looks like it's been gained pretty quickly, freely offered up by the defense, so no sweat broken by UX there.
Yeah, nothing
lane.
really worried about.
You take it.
Yeah. All right. So this has become something interesting too that I'm seeing a little bit more play from a couple different teams. You put the shield a little back further there on the metal stairs, and usually it's the Wamai also playing there, so he can actually actively throw those discs up onto the sides of that little archway there. It's pretty obnoxious for the attack to have to constantly deal with that man watching from the metal side, but now the first bit of contact is going to start to come in, and it's going to be in the fountain side of things as UX here, Christ, pushing forward. The shield is detonated. First Goyo shield goes down, as now this attack is in full swing here, pushing forward ever so quickly, but almost Chris goes down to Skynexus on the main stairs, who is patiently watching him through both the soft wall and the Hibana hole that was created actually by Rabinshu.
One Type Hex going to claim the life of Louis there, who is trying to go for the flank as the Falcon. Forgot about that Claymore, but Monster's going to put down Christ inside of Shrine. And that's your Sophia gone. A lot of her utility already used, so not too big a loss, but Lucania taking a big chunk of damage there and finished off by Louis. In fact, he manages to down him and doesn't seem to be able to confirm it. Pangoro is going to find Nexus in the meantime, and Monster replies with kill onto Pangoro. So 2 versus 3 effectively for the attackers. Lucania still probably beyond rescue at this point. One Tech Hit might be able to sneak in, but Rabinshu finds Monster, and now Scorpio and Pelican, the last alive. The Smoke sitting inside of Archives still has 1 gas canister to his name, and with 25 seconds left, that's pretty big. The diffuser has been dropped inside of Shrine, but Pelican finding that head of Rabinshu, and now it's all up to One Tech Heck, who does fall swiftly to the SMG of Scorpio. And the final kill being credited there onto the Fallen Sledge.
Yeah, a good job there from Regnant, able to lock it out in the end. Now you either go to your third site, or you go to Vent's Workshop, which you just showed off to be not the strongest, honestly. So we'll have to see how they want to change up this Vent's Workshop defense, if at all. We're going to see the Mute come out this time for Skynexus instead of a Kaid, and the same attacker lineup shown by UX. And this has become a pretty commonplace lineup. This is just the lineup of the regular lineup at this point that a lot of teams will bring. Usually the Nomad is flexed out sometimes for another operator, as is the Hibana usually for a thermite. Sorry about that, but uh, yeah, usually Zofia, IQ, and Sledge are now permanently picked. There's not really a lot of buck play present, so I mean, losing those frag grenades was pretty crucial, and a lot of teams at this point will kind of just, I guess, sometimes forego vertical destruction in favor of having those frag grenades on Sledge. So it really goes to show how prevalent that utility is, even if it's just a simple gadget that a good number of operators can have. Um,
Yeah,
it
one of
just
the
shows
overlooked
how
things
little Buck plays now.
one of the overlooked things about Buck as well is that he was also quite adept at clearing out utility from below. So it's much more often now that we see, or I suppose it's probably a bit soon to say this, but I would imagine it's going to be much more often now that we see IQ being brought, because she's really one of the only reliable ways to do that. Or if you happen to have a sidearm shotgun, perhaps there'd be some way of working that in. But not many operators have access to that would nicely slip into Buck's slot. And Sledge brings the top-down play and sort of ease of horizontal destruction as well, but you still miss out on that bottom-up style of vertical play that Buck can bring, and really only he can bring as effectively as he does. So we're
Yeah,
seeing a
like
little...
you said. Ooh,
I keep doing that. We're seeing a little bit of pressure from Office right now, and this player, Louis, just stuck inside a shrine. As he was before, he didn't fare too well here last time. Did manage to get a kill before immediately being traded off, which is decent, I suppose, but he's taken a lot of damage right now, and is probably not in the best shape for a fight, especially with only that UMP in hand, and his location completely known. Stuns coming out there from Christ as Lucania now begins the peek, and it looks like he finds him, catching him looking the wrong way, but Scorpio replies with a kill onto Chris. So good backup there and good refrag by the Goyo. 4 versus 4 now, and 1 minute and 8 seconds left on the board. A good pick by One Step Hair, because he's finding these holes to work with vertically, and that's your Goyo now removed from the picture. I'm getting a little bit of lag here. So looks
yeah.
like, unfortunately, our clean feed is frozen, and we'll probably be back with it fairly shortly. Yep, looks like it's coming back. Oh, just a few more issues.
I have sound. Okay. So no kills went through. We're down to the last 30 seconds or so here. As, ooh, 2 kills from Sky Nexus and Pelican onto One Tep and Pangoro. As now it is that 2-on-3 here. As we are sorry for the lack of talking on the action. It is clean feed buffering here. Monster trades onto Rabinshu, who picked up Pelican, so it is a 1-on-1, and Lucania is not able to win it out. As that is another clean round now this time, or cleaner looking round for Regnant this time around here on Vent's Workshop.
Yeah, apologies there for sort of radio broadcast of the end of that round. So Regnant picking that one up on the defense. But we will be back shortly. We just need to make sure that we have the cleanest possible clean feed to go live with. So that round, I suppose, worth talking about. We saw basically the first half of it with a pretty clean execute onto the top floor, but a very good refrag from the Goyo, and that was the uh, that was basically what started Regnant's victory there. So they went on to win that round, obviously. Um, that's their first successful defense of the bottom floor, and they're actually taking the lead with that. So the score will be 2-1 when we do get back to the game. Just a few issues here while we sort these out. Just yeah, apologies while we sort this out. It's been a little bit tough today. We've had very last minute stand-ins trying to sort of rescue us from failure, but we're very committed to bringing you as much of this as possible. I just need to reconnect to my clean feed, so I'll be 2 seconds or so.
Yeah, so again, back on that Vents Workshop defense there. It was pretty good nice to see UX opting for, or rather Regnant opting for some refrag there that we didn't really see in that first round, as we're gonna see the opening frag onto one tap from Skynexus there, as I believe the Valkyrie ran out, got very aggressive, and one tap goes down. So a good play made by Skynexus on the Valkyrie here. Brings himself on top of his team with 5 frags now, as he is all up there on his lonesome. So
Monster's going to find a kill there onto Pangoro. We have uh, about 1 minute 48 left on the round from my perspective, and it's Regnant looking to hold this one off in a 4 versus 3. So we have jail open, and that's a useful point of entry, but Lucania finding a trick. In fact, that's a straight trade between Lucania and Pelican there. Another aggressive run out from Sky Nexus almost nets him a kill, but Rabinchu is wise to it and manages to dodge out the way for the time being. The site is actually completely empty at this moment in time for Chris and Rabinchu taking this opportunity to sneak on into supply room and get the plant down in the A site. Vertical control established by Chris as well, and this looks like it could be a very good position for them to clutch out this 2 versus 3. The Hibana sitting on the diffuser manages to deal with Skynexus from the immediate push and actually escapes the site with his life as well. Louis and the Monster now have a pretty tall task ahead of them to try and find this, but Louis is going to go for this run out. It gets lit up, but immediately then put down by the bearing 9 of Rabinchu. Now it's all up to Monster in this 1 versus 2. 20 seconds left. He has to find 2 players, one above him and one outside. It's looking pretty grim for this Monster, but he cannot find. He does actually find the killer beneath him. There's no way he finds Chris, though. Chris would have to give away his life. He's trying to stick the diffuser. Chris has to peek it. He's got the angle. He does manage to finish him off there with the leg shots, and that was a close one there. Monster doing the right thing, trying to stick that diffuser, but ultimately Chris just had the upper hand there. And that's a
that
round to UX Gaming.
that was really close there, actually, as I think he got down to under 2 seconds left at least on that diffuser mark, but not able to make it work. Sadly, Monster came pretty close in that clutch, and like you said, did the right thing, made the right call, a good attempt to try and go for that defuse when he had no chance thereafter. But now it's actually Monster is even himself up there on top with Sky Nexus, as we are headed back to Armory Lockers now that it's unlocked. In terms of sites and being one. So it's interesting. Something I wanted to say, that Pelican is running the MP5 instead of the AUG. I know a lot. There's some like there's been some discussion between it, because obviously when you see mute played, you see the SMG 11 and the M590 set up together rather than that MP5K, which is pretty interesting just because yeah, I th- I think the M590 SMG 11, and I know a lot of other people think it too, that it's probably one of the best gun duos on defense in the game, just because of the maneuverability and the strength of the SMG 11 itself. But I'm not really sure I like the MP5. I just think in all rights, aside from the view model, the AUG is just better. It just happens to have, of course, that very obnoxious view model, like right covering half your screen.
Yeah, it really does come down to personal preference with those guns. I think that, yeah, stats-wise, the Org pretty much wins out in every department, which is a strange thing to see so many people bring that MP5K. But that said, the MP5K is definitely a strong gun, but you know what's an even stronger gun is the Type 89 of Hibana, and Pangoro just learned that the hard way. Running across the line of sight there, and that's really not wise when you know your Hibana's doing that. I think that's on Pangoro, that one. He really shouldn't have gone for that. And now UX Gaming are without their Ash, so a pretty big player as well. Pangoro has been seen to put up the numbers before, and yeah, when you're out without one of your best fraggers, then you don't look good for the rest of the round.
Yeah, it is pretty rough. So, like you said, Pangoro is sitting there on 4 frags, so he's the second highest frag so far on Regnant. And even without, ignoring that, any of these you lose any of these operators, and that is a whole lot of utility that all of a sudden Regnant has to work without there. So double when my disc is going to go off, but it's Scorpio to find the first opening frag for real, as now the attack is slowly starting to come in, but it is hampered by this 3v5 now, and with a limited amount of utility, the UX is going to have to try and make it work. At least Louis goes down.
A bomb has been located.
Surprising that One-Step Heck didn't swing a bit wider and go for the shots through the wall that's soft that we see him looking at right now. He had the location known of the defenders, but now we're in this 3 versus 4, as you mentioned, and Scorpio being very lit, he does still have 3 gas canisters in hand, and with only 30 seconds left, you cannot see the attackers, especially with some of them so lit, managing to find their way onto site successfully here. Skynex is being lit up there, but here comes the first canister, and that spells pretty much doom for UX. They do manage to remove that Go-Yo shield, but this is just going to be a complete slaughter as they try and push into site. The first kill comes in as that Skynex is finding one. Lucania finds another one to Monster, but immediately refragged by Skynexus, and it's One-Step Heck left in a 1 versus 2. He can't do much about that because the timer is up, and there was just no chance really for the attack there.
Yeah, that ended up being pretty rough. It's just been back and forth rounds now, as it seems like Regnant has found their way on the defense here. Things are looking up for them, but UX is hopefully going to try and find a way to win out here on this last Events Workshop defense before the side switch, because especially starting attack on border, you want as many rounds as possible to try and give yourself the best bet you can on defense, because if you watched early on in that first Events Workshop defense, the attack kind of rolled through upstairs and took what they wanted, and that's really how border has gone lately. We're seeing it obviously a bit differently here, as Regnant is playing out really well and showing a lot of control that they have, but otherwise it is still a scary sight to think about for UX here, to try and have to take defense on border with anything less than 3 rounds on attack.
5 seconds to go.
So, like you said, this Vents defense
Objective is to locate a bomb.
not really been working especially well. We have slight change of plan here, as Skynex is bringing that mute. I believe we didn't see much mute action before. I may be wrong on that, but we have potentially a little bit more control of certain areas to try and kind of keep those drones from being a real problem. But we don't see any Mozzie. We don't, which is quite often the pairing that you'd go for to try and hard deny those drones. Instead, we've got, once again, this Wamai Jaeger who can really cause problems, especially last round when we saw Pangoro go off the board. That was a big issue. He carries those 2 breaching rounds and the 3 stuns as well. Let's not forget those. Are very, very important when you're coming up against so much throwable catching utility. It's a It's a real pain to have to burn through without the Ash. So they're hoping not to lose her so early this time round. Lucania having taken a little bit of damage so far before the real engagement comes, and that's Chris finding the head of Scorpio. Yo-Yo off the board for the defense, and this frag grenade might actually catch Louis out right now, but it just falls short, and Lucania reacts quickly enough to put down the castle with his M4 instead.
Yeah, the addition of frag grenades recently to Maverick has been a huge boon for attacking teams, as especially now that Buck has lost his. He's been played a lot more, but it's going to be Regnant losing lives left and right. Not a flawless, at least, as Monster able to pick up one, but a minute left in a 1v4 on half health with no hope of healing himself up. Now at about 20. He's done. Round is over. And
Yeah,
UX
he's done.
cleans up a very clean round.
He really was done there. That was a pretty horrible position to be in, tucked away in bunker, like 2 or 3 attackers staring at you for most of the round, and or most of the final 20 seconds at least. Yeah, that was a very, very clean execute from UX, and we're going to be going into the second half of the match now. Switching sides, we've got UX heading onto that defense now, and 3-3, I guess. You could expect it to be, like, you can expect 2 evenly matched sides to finish 3-3 after the half. This map, fairly well balanced, I'd say. Obviously,
Attackers need to
slightly more
locate and
attacker
defuse
favored,
as many bombs as they
potentially, if
can.
anything, but I don't, you know, I wouldn't say that 3-3 is anything out of the ordinary for either of these teams. Which is interesting, because they are both currently very close to each other in the standings. We have, last match we had Lucendium's Vex. I'm going to get used to not calling them Pats Asleep, and they were basically vying for that top spot. And right here, these two teams are struggling to get off the bottom. We have Regnant without a win yet, but they have managed to draw. UX having that 1 map win against Budapest 5 last week, slightly above them on 3 points. So this match could mean a lot to these teams come the end of the season if they are going to be battling out down the bottom and trying to escape those bottom 2 places.
Yeah, so even match so far showing up, like you said. We'll have to see if Regnant can break it open on this attack half, and I think Monster and Scorpio are at least looking to go quickly in here through the Teller side, but nothing really should come of that, considering that unless Scorpio goes in with them, they'll have to force their way through a lot of hard walls, and that's not something that these soft breachers can do. So very quickly, Scorpio and Sky Nexus are going to fall back, but it's Pangoro to clean up Monster as he leaves, trying to get out of there, as we're seeing a Mozzie, which we don't really see as much anymore. He's definitely been seeing a lot less play, as the nerf of the Super Shorty did help out a bit in terms of teams not wanting to run a mute. The only thing that I really think of it doing or having done was that it made teams want to have to run a mute with him just for the shotgun. Louis going to clean up one tep as well, almost get cleaned up himself, but he's still up on just a bit of HP. And now it's an even 4-on-4 with about half the round left to go.
Yeah, 1 minute 30 on the clock, and we've got Louis very worth aware, but besides that, pretty much good going for the attackers so far. Wantepeg has played that position before, we've seen it before from him, and it didn't work out for him this time around. Skynexus, though, finding Pangoro with a frag, Rabinshu replying, and then Skynexus with a second onto Rabinshu. So a 2 versus 3 very quickly, and now the attackers finally have a man advantage to their name. Top floor control as well, pretty much established for them, and this Nomad just regathering her drone, making sure she can use it for the final site execute. Just 2 defenders to locate. Does include Lucania again with 3 smokes in hand, and as the timer keeps ticking, Chris as well gets more powerful with those frisbees accumulating. But Lucania with the smoke grenade should probably be a bigger influence here. 30 seconds left on the ground now as well. Skynex is actually being taken out from below by Lucania, and now it's suddenly looking up for the defenders.
Located by attackers.
Yes, that 2-on-2 now with Louis, especially on a single HP or so, maybe around 5. But point is, he has 1 bullet, and there goes that 1 bullet from Chris. The SMG-11 rather of Lucania able to clean up the round there, and while like you said, it did look a little sideways there for a second, UX was able to clutch up the round in that crunch time and clean things up, able to make it happen. As now Bathroom Tellers is their choice, a site that we've seen both cropping up in the meta more and not come out from Regnant, interestingly. So I think part of the reason that this site is being seen a lot more is the way that it's being held now. Before, it kind of used to just be you walled yourselves in with castle walls and reinforcements up into offices, and you kind of just hunkered down there. And
Attackers need to
now
locate and defuse bombs.
it's pretty much the same, but there's a lot more horizontal and vertical flexibility here. This is interesting that UX is reinforcing these walls here leading into vents there, but usually you'll see pretty much no one on the main floor. Someone will eventually rotate to customs late in the round should it get into an even or even standing or UX is ahead. And there's a lot of play positioned through armory lockers as well as sometimes events workshop. We're not going to see that here, but all in all, generally, it's a very wide hold both vertically and horizontally. So there's a lot for the attack to have to clear out, and even if you know the defense isn't set up for a refrag here, that doesn't really matter because, all right, say you find one tap in armory, should he be playing there, then you still have to push through all the castle walls, all the Goyo shields, get your drones past mute jammers just to get these guys out from the upstairs, and then probably by 45-30 seconds you're looking at, okay, now we can finally try and attack the site, and hope to God that someone's not lurking in customs waiting for us to drop and kill us from the drop.
Yeah, so at this point I think it's if Regnant knew, they could be just nading that window that One Tap Hex sits at. He's been doing that 2 rounds running, and he did it most of the last time they played on border as well. So there's a tip for any future teams: just nade that window. But Pangoro is gonna find himself flying in the air, courtesy of a C4 from beneath, and that's a nice one from Pangoro there. The Goyo, they having prepped that, and a good pick early on. Again, the Ash going down against the Jaeger and other things is going to be a pain, but at least Pelican managed to find that delayed refrag onto the castle. Frag coming out onto the castle's position, but it's too late because he's already dead, and now this line of sight's being opened up from Shrine. They really want to cut across the side and the top of offices, but Robinshu's going to cut right into Louis' head at range, and that's not good news as well. The Ash and the Zofia both gone, and you still have walls that you really need to open up. You still have castle barricades, and thankfully they've got a sledgehammer at their disposal as well. Now, Chris sitting tight here. He does expect the peek from the doorway. He knows the sledge is there, so he has to stay put and just burn as much time as possible. He's probably a dead man in this position, quite honestly. Can't find the head of Pelican, though. Now it's a 3 versus 3.
Yeah, 3-on-3 here coming out in the end. Good picks all around. And this is what I was saying, though. By the time the upstairs is cleared out, the defense has so much time here for, or not, rather, they have so much time to work with now in terms of stalling out the attack, just because it has to be a 15-second push for here. No feed holes actually allow Scorpio to get the plant down, but from the windows here, it's going to be one tap to rain some fire on in. Pelican able to refrag on the Pangoro after Rubinshi picked up Sky Nexus, but no plant going down. The planter was downed. And Bathroom Tellers goes the way of UX, and they start to take a commanding 5-3 lead now on the terms of maps or round score.
Yeah, that was a pretty solid one by UX, and a great job by that mute on the top floor to try and deny as much time as possible. He knew that he was very unlikely to get anything from that position, but playing so smart just inside the little cubby, making sure to survive, and in the end, with the timer being essentially what won it out for UX, that was such a crucial play to make because it was looking a bit difficult for UX. You got to admit that Regnant did a pretty good job of executing onto that top floor. They didn't lose too many bodies. They managed to cut down two of the opponents for two of their own, but it was just time that was the problem. They left themselves with about 35 seconds to actually go for the execute. They even did that fairly well, establishing that Bathroom itself was the best option to go for, dropping in, keeping one above to cover, but unfortunately, it was just a bit too tough. There's too many angles into the site. Like you mentioned, there weren't any foot level holes, which is an interesting one from UX Gaming. They could have had those in place, and it would have made it pretty much impossible for anyone to go for those plants if there was any defenders present in, say, customs or main lobby. We're actually seeing Chris try this little trick here. It's quite a fun one. He's going to throw out that Wamai disc to... well, that's an interesting placement of it, actually. I was expecting it to go a bit further back. It's presumably designed to try and catch the air jabs and cost Pelican some of his utility, and then enable a bit of a run out later on. But obviously, the air jab can go down there, and then he'll be able to shoot it out, enabling that run out. So we'll see how that works out in the long run. We might not get to see that exchange of utility at all, however, as Pelican is, in fact, doing his duty out here on the south balcony instead. So CCTV control in hands of Regnant, and with about 45 seconds left or gone on the round. Again, that's a lot of control offered up by the defenders.
Yeah, it is pretty in the hands here of UX as...
Oh wow, okay, the rush coming in. Lupenia does find one, and a second for Pangoro. Scorpio finds two himself. Rubinshi was beneath with the C4, and that's Diffuser going down. I looked away at the wrong moment there. Pelican and Louis are now in a 2 versus 3, and they do have the control of the site, which is pretty important, but Rubinshi playing from beneath needs to try and find his like, oh, he does open up the right position, but doesn't find the kill. Pelican finds one of his own, though, coming in here. One Tap Heck now the presence in the site to try and deny this plant outright, but cover is in the wrong position, and One Tap Heck finds the head of Pelican, who goes for the plant. Louis now trying to find the Jaeger. He does not manage to get that. One Tap Heck making the big plays at the end of the round there to try and secure that site for his team, and a failed rush for Regnant now puts them in a dire situation.
Yeah, you're up now 6-3 for UX here. And like you said, it is pretty dire for Regnant. Either you have to string together 3 attacks on 3 sites, really, that you haven't been able to fully penetrate side of that last rush. And that's just to get the tie, or else UX is going to win out here. So we'll see if they can continue their perfect half here. It's pretty interesting to see so defensive swung here on border, which I've said it probably 900 times at this point. Everyone's probably sick of hearing it. That I keep saying that Porter's swung attacker sided lately, but it is just generally really interesting that UX is showing so much success, even though it's only been 3 rounds here. They've been handling these defenses pretty well. They're doing seemingly everything perfectly. So,
I
we're
mean,
gonna yeah.
in terms
Go.
of recent history, sorry, in terms of recent history between for UX on this map at least, they've been really struggling. Well, they lost their first map. They lost their first week, a 7-0 on border, and they took no attacking rounds. That was Revenge who dealt that. And then the second week, they actually put more attacking rounds on the board than defending ones. They managed to turn around a 5-3 deficit to a 7-5 with 4 attacking rounds of their own. So, they're... I mean, they have mixed fortunes on... oh, apologies, no, I read the wrong map. On border, they put 3 defensive rounds in a row, and they only actually had 1 attacking round of their own. So, they're clearly much better defending on this map, if anything, and that's really quite good for them. They've put 3 together again in a row this time round, and it doesn't look like Regnant have anything to reply with, really. Monster is just dicing with death here as One Step Heck finally strikes and finds him on that rappel. You can pretty much guarantee he's going to be playing that position every single round, but there's still nothing that Regnant can do about it.
So now that's 3 rounds out of the 4 here on their attack. That Monster has been the first one to go down. So things are looking pretty rough for him. As now it is the Jaeger getting in more gunfights. Not really exchanging much else past that, but he's stalling out a lot of time here on this Vents defense.
Yeah, it's not still not looking great for Regnant. They've had such a hard time attacking on this map, and bear in mind this is a Vents defense, right? They need to try and take Armory to get control of that, and it looks like they're almost within reach of doing so. They just need to clear out, well, they need to clear out this Jaeger and then another 2 defenders up here. But then they have to worry about the site execute, and Scorpio getting a whiff of One Step Heck there, but no, in fact, it's Rabinchu who has to go down in response to that Hibana. Louis finally picking up Pangoro, and that's the Wamai and the Kai dealt with on the top floor. One Step Heck, though, striking back as per usual. He finds his 2nd kill on the round, and that's Louis going down. Once again, the Zofia and Ash first to go. And One Step Heck still going to be a thorn in Regnant's side, and that side is the offices right now.
Well, he does go down there, but he has done his job. He's stayed in that position for 2.5 minutes, able to pick up 2 the help of his teammates, but now things are looking very rough. It's up to Chris all alone. That C4 is not going to find anything. Perhaps just a bit of damage there onto Pelican. But now he is forced onto a flank here, all on his lonesome. As now able to find 1 drone. Chris is trying to get up above. But he's slowly working his way. He is found out from below. The sledge almost finds him, but no damage returned there onto Sky Nexus. Chris looking all around, anxious up above constantly, but now he's going to drop into the waiting arms of an air jab and the Nomad. At least breaking the streak here is Regnant. That's not 5 rounds in a row anymore for UX, as Regnant able to take 1. But this could be the start of their comeback, as now we have to head probably to Bathroom Tellers, I would assume, from UX, just to try and confirm this half. No, they're going to stick to Vents Workshop, so they feel confident with it.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice there. They obviously could go with the Bathroom, but maybe feeling that their win there wasn't as convincing as they'd liked. And the other thing about a Bathroom defense is that it's very reliant on your setup working, and it's not particularly difficult to deal with if you bring the right tools. So perhaps just showing it the one time and then going back to somewhere a little bit more reliable is their sort of approach here. I've got to say, it was unfortunate for One Step Heck in that round. He must have felt like he'd won his team that round, having, as you mentioned, stayed alive for 2.5 minutes, picking off a couple of attackers in the process as well. And the rest of his team couldn't even find a single head anywhere. So it was also just a bit disheartening once he did go down to see Lucania fall straight away.
10 seconds
Given that he must have known the players were above him, he just seemed to be moving around a bit too much on that bottom floor, exposed himself to the hatch, and then was easily picked off. So perhaps if it had been a 2v3 in the end, it might have been a little bit different, but a good attempt by the smoke to try and actually push up those stairs, clearing the air jab as well. But eventually, I mean, in the end, he just didn't get the pick early enough in the post plant. And once that air jab came out onto the hatch, you just knew it was pretty much game over at that point for him.
Yeah, it was pretty rough going, so it does feel pretty rough. But now back up here, we're going to see a different pick. We're going to see an alibi come out from Pangora, which is pretty interesting. Not really an operator that we see a lot of, just because at these high levels of play, particularly, it's just so easy to call out where certain things are. Interesting too is Lucania's running shotgun pulse. Is now, I'll have to hold off on that for a second, as it's one tap to be the source of the first bit of aggression here after Pangoro nearly went down. Louis able to confirm this one now, and it's looking pretty good here for Regnant on the attack. Lucania taken down to about half health after dealing about the same to Louis, if not a little bit more, thanks to that shotgun. But
Louis just seems to be doing all the work himself here, but that frag almost finding the Kaid. He just managed to bail out in time. And Pangoro is still being a bit of a pain inside a shrine. He's getting stunned constantly, but the peaks just aren't coming through because Ravinshu is holding that cross angle with the Kaid. And he finds Louis, putting him down, but immediately falling himself to Sky Nexus. And Pelican finds Chris to turn this to a solid attacker advantage, 4 versus 2. Regnant battling back. The C4 comes out, but it's a bit late and onto an partially indestructible floor as Scorpio finds Pangoro. Now it's all down to Lucania with the pistol in hand. Doesn't matter as Monster easily picks him up. An almost flawless round for Regnant. 4 operators still on the board at the very end, and they are pulling this one back. They do not want UX to get this win.
yeah, so now that's 2 here, as we're headed to Armory Lockers, and we could be seeing just generally the UX not being super comfortable on bathroom tellers, even though they've used it as their third site. And realistically, it's it should be their preferred site, but I would say just because a lot of teams, you know, when it comes to either side being uncertain about something, at the end of the day, 9 times out of 10,
Attackers
the
need to
defense
locate
is
and
going to
defuse the
win
bomb.
just by nature of how it has to be handled. So even if UX, I feel, is, unless they're extremely uncomfortable on the site and feel that much more strongly about their Armory Lockers defense, it should be you know, it should be that bathroom teller's defense that they should go for. But I mean, we're gonna have to see now how this defense works out, as I think their thought process has to be that Regnant was forced into a rush really in that last round, and even that didn't work out.
Attackers objective is to locate a bomb.
Yeah, they can't really be assuming anything at this point. It's been such a close battle, and once again we see that Frisbee being tossed out onto the balcony to try and catch any air jabs or perhaps any initial stuns that might be thrown in, or impacts or stuns, Zephyr concussion grenades, whatever it might be. They just don't want to have to worry about a very quick push from that direction, perhaps. Louis clearing out that Electro Claw means that this armory wall should be ripe for the breaching. Scorpio will make light work of that very shortly, but the moment Louis is just going to be droning into sight, seeing how exposed it is. We do have foot level holes open from the small office, but a deployable camera as well that will probably need to be dealt with before they can go for any push. Lucania is caught out there. by the Zofia, and that's just smoke gone. A big pick at this stage in the round, and UX Gaming looking less and less likely to seal this one out with a win. Regnant still looking for their first win, though. They won't get it this map. They'll have to wait for the next one, but they can add another point to the board if they take this round.
Yeah, things are looking pretty good, like you said, for Regnant. Even though that initial 3 rounds here for UX won out, Regnant is able to start to work here and get to work on this couple rest of the attack. But no, it is being stifled now. Louis and Scorpio both go down.
Yeah, that was a close one there, almost landing the shots onto the Wamai. I thought it actually was a headshot, but it wasn't, and now he takes a fair amount of damage from the frag grenade. He's going to be stimmed up at range by Pangoro, but he does actually miss those stims, and he pays for it with his life. Monster finding that, and he finds a second immediately, though, being C4'd from beneath. Skynex is going to try and stick this diffuser, but he falls off it at the last moment, or just quite early on. The Kaid from beneath manages to light him up to within an inch of his life, and he moves to the side, but this TCSG showing its strength in so many ways here, but one Tepek is there finally to claim that kill. Amazing shot there from Pelican through the wall to find one Tepek, and now it's all up to Rabinchu to try and clutch this one out against the diffuser carrier, and he manages it with a nice clean headshot through the window and past the bomb chassis. Let's have a look at this one. Ah, nicely lined up there, and that is UX Gaming finally taking this one 7-5.
Yeah, UX did a good job there, at least in that last round. Able to trade off pick for pick at the very least. Able to win out the map that definitely looked a bit scary there at the end. They were up 6-3 for a while, but Regnant made them work for it. So we'll head to a short break here before we jump into Cafe here between UX and Regnant for map 2 on day 1 of play week 3. There we go.
Yep, that is going to be it for the moment. We'll be back very shortly.
All right, and welcome back for the last map today for the Atlas Championship Series matchup here between Regnant and UX Gaming. As before, I am Cherish. Still with me is Jerry the Music Man. So
Hello.
we're gonna be jumping in to Cafe between Regnant and UX with Regnant on the attack. So especially after the border showing, is there anything you're expecting really to come out from Cafe?
Well, I mean, it was just such a tight map. I don't think I could call the victor at all from this uh set. I mean, in terms of sort of strategy, I don't know if it's really possible to compare either. You know, Border and Cafe is um they're not too dissimilar, but they've definitely got massive differences. You know, Cafe, obviously, a much bigger map in general. Borders were probably one of the smallest in the pool, just the two floors, and it's quite small in sort of width. But it's yeah, Cafe does tend to play out um a bit more regularly and in a kind of more formulaic fashion than Border tends to. And people do say that Border plays out formulaically as well, but Cafe is probably the most set way of approaching a map that you can get in the map pool at the moment, with pretty much entire emphasis taken put on taking piano and clearing top down, unless you're going for a sort of very single-minded push onto the bottom floor on, say, a kitchen defense. But it's usually that's the order of operations, and um, I mean, I don't know how that's going to affect either team. Um, Certain players playing predictably might start to bite them a bit more as we get further and further into the map. I'm looking at One Tep Heck, for instance, always playing the window in Border. Perhaps he has a little spot that he likes in Cafe, and maybe this time round, UX, or rather Regnant, will be able to read into that a bit sooner. But that's just a bit of speculation, I suppose. We should be almost ready to head into the game now, as both sets of players are in the lobby. So um, we had some interesting bans uh, last time, or actually fairly standard bans last time around: Thatcher, Mirror, Ying, and Echo. Are there any sort of maybe curveball bans that you'd be interested to see here, Cherish, before we go in? It's just a maybe before it happens, we can hope.
Yeah, so I would say as of late we've seen or at least I've seen Pulse starting to crop up from some teams um as a ban. I would have to say Lucania's shotgun pulse isn't something particularly to be afraid of, but we'll have to see if anything interesting comes out. I am expecting alongside this Thatcher, as is expected to be a just generally the usual suspects: Maverick, Echo, and Mira. These operators are pretty strong. Usually, we'll also see a Capital, but Ying. Okay, I guess teams have realized that Ying with smokes is very strong. She can definitely solo clear a site and push it all on her own.
Yeah, so last time round we saw Thatcher and Ying banned out on Border as well. And in fact, despite it being side swapped for this, we have UX Gaming uh, starting on the defense instead this time around. Last night they started on the attack. We've still got Thatcher Ying, and they've actually banned out opposite operators. So um, clearly, just a sort of agreement between these two teams that these are the ops to go, and Mirror and Echo as well, a complete duplicate of the Border ban. So not as exciting as me or you were hoping, but
Yeah.
still, it's what you expect, and at least it will be a pretty good marker of how these two teams can perform against each other.
Yeah, and I guess everyone's gotten used to it now over the last season or so, but it's pretty interesting to see the rise of the Thatcher band really, especially with the prevalence of a lot of these operators. I think it really started um the the way I can think of it happening is oh, I forgot about that. The Tachanka rework is gonna come in, and that's gonna make stalling so much worse. Oh,
If he's
whatever.
anything like he was in the reveal panel,
Oh God.
then I think we're going to see a Tachanka meta. But
Yeah.
hopefully, especially given the state of the current meta with very defender-sided, very utility-heavy holds, I think they may tone him down a little bit from what we saw, and at least I'd hope they'd have the sensible mentality to do that. This is rather interesting what we're seeing from UX right now. We've got a very different setup to the sort of standard hold on this top floor. A full reinforcement, a full set of reinforcements between the bathroom and freezer itself, and a pair of deployable shields, and in fact, a third Vulcan shield going down as well. Looking into piano, this is an incredibly aggressive setup with lots of shields looking into piano.
Yeah, this hold is something that I've seen a bit more. You kind of play one shield in front of that hold as like a faux mirror of sorts, and the operator really the defender can freely swing around wherever he wants. Oh, Chris is not going to be able to find anything there, as he did get aggressive down on that downstairs door near the garage. But yeah, it allows the defender to play very aggressively, swinging between the pixel spot and bathroom, and you kind of just put him in there and let him run free and stall out as much time as he would ever want. And it's pretty awful for the defense to run, especially, or for the defense to deal with, especially without a any twitch or IQ from below to get rid of the ADSs and stuff. But we're seeing both Capitao and Gridlock here, so potentially actually just a full-on smoke plant here as Louis opens up one window, sets off fire. A couple smoke grenades are landing in. The Gridlock tracks are as well, and here comes Scorpio, fast on it with a plant. Whoop! That's where I freeze up.
Well, one Tep Heck managed to find a double in there, Rabinchu with one of his own, as well as Louis finds one on the rappel. But that rush trap pretty much falling to pieces because so much control still in the hands of the defenders by Yellow Stairs. And that's just walking into a massive crossfire that the whole map is part of, really. And now Louis is left with it all to do in a 1 versus 3. So he drops in, can expect a pinch from both sides pretty soon. So he's flicking between these two positions, expecting the pinch to come through, but it finally does, and he's met with a hail of bullets from every direction as Chris is the one that actually claims that. But UX, a very convincing response there to interesting strategy in terms of the execution from Regnant. But they also brought to the table such a strange setup themselves that Um, I'm quite excited for the rest of this matchup. Really, that we've had basically a really odd defensive setup and a very unusual attacking solution to that. Whether that was kind of pre-planned or whether they were going to go for that already. Considering they brought the Capitao, it may well have been part of their plan to begin with.
Yeah, both Capitao and Gridlock haven't seen the utmost play, especially in this utility heavy meta, just because it was taking. I mean, neither operator, when it comes to it, have destructive capabilities, and that is pretty big for this meta as of late. So it's pretty sad, really. I think to see not a lot of I guess flexibility allowed in these attack setups, just because you have to bring so many specific operators just to be able to go forward, really.
I want to delve a little bit into that defensive setup in particular, especially seeing as right now we're experiencing a couple of clean feed issues. So you maybe, yep, you can see that on your screen right now. We've got a bit of a problem, so we're just trying to make sure that we can get it back um, properly. But yeah, that defensive setup does give us a lot to talk about, which I'm grateful for. And it was one that I think kind of worked because essentially it completely dissuades any attackers from trying to push Piano. It's basically saying we're going to put so much utility into Piano, all three of these shields facing in your direction, and at any point a defender could pop up and try and take your head off. And there's very little cover inside a Piano, even if you're trying to go for the repel with um, sort of range destruction capabilities like what Zofia and Ash might bring. Um, it's kind of it basically forced them to go for that play on the other side of the building, even if that wasn't necessarily what they wanted to do. Even if it was even if it might have been what they wanted to do at the start, rather.
Yeah. So
We are, I believe, we're back in the game.
nice. So we are back. We're headed down to the first floor here, as I don't think anything really has cropped up yet. No action, no damage. Is now we're in halfway through the round, pretty early on. So things are looking pretty good already. Even though there is no action, like I said, things are looking good here for UX just because this is how the defense wants things to play out. They want the attack to take a lot of time and go slowly. As now the Zofia is going to come to blows here with one tap, but he's going to, or no, that's Rubinshu, my bad. As Rubinshu does fall here. So the Mozzie also goes down thanks to Scorpio, as it is looking grim now. Even though the attack has taken a little while, they are making this work. One tap now able to find one here at least, but not the second just yet. Sledge taken down to a single bullet, but Nomad Pelican there able to confirm it. And now with 40 seconds remaining, UX has just two men on site.
Yeah, that crossfire pretty deadly there for the Jaeger. And so unfortunate not to find that kill, but Scorpio is going to get downed. And it looks like he may be finished off as well by Lucania, who has these smoke grenades in hand. He can deter the entry of any attackers trying to push him and maybe go for the swing onto the down player, but it wouldn't be worth his trouble right now. He just completely misses the Nomad there. Pelican finding that, reacting faster, and Chris now left in a 1 versus 4, but the diffuser is yet to go down, and it's only 5 seconds left, but Pelican, despite falling to that MPX, is able to manage to put that Valkyrie down. Now is looking pretty close for Regnant with the timer so close to the end there.
Yeah, UX, realistically, it did look pretty rough, but it was possible there for Chris to pull it out. Two were already downed, and if he was able to land a couple more shots earlier on onto Pelican there, he would have been able to pull out that opening frag and, or rather, not opening frag, my bad, that just general frag and down the Nomad and just fully focus all his efforts onto the very low Sky Nexus. So it's sad that he was not able to make that clutch up work. But all in all, I think we're headed back to kitchen service. No, we're up to reading fireplace. My apologies. So that this has become a pretty commonplace sight nowadays, especially considering that the opposite is mining and dining, which doesn't really pose that much of a threat to in this newer meta now, especially when you look at it. The reason that fireplace, or rather reading fireplace, has become such a big common sight as a lot of teams are grown comfortable with it. It just comes down to the upstairs area you have to control. The upstairs over fireplace is very, very closed off and very nice over in that cocktail side of things. Whereas over top of a mining and train specifically is the entirety of piano, which is just a massive area of basically no man's land with not a lot of cover for defenders to hide in. But we'll have to see now as how UX wants to hold this out, as Rubinshu is pulling out our first pulse of this map, as well as an Ella from Pangoro.
Yep, and we see a full rush looks like it's going to happen here from Regnant, but they're completely shut down. But immediately they reply. Lucania finds one to put UX in the advantage, and just like that, it's a 3 versus 1. And now Pelican left last alive. One Tep Heck not happy about whatever bug might have happened to him, but at least his defenders are still looking pretty strong in their current position. That rush just did not go to plan at all. The Ella so perfectly positioned to deal with the spearhead, and then it kind of just fell apart. And now the Nomad with 3 air jabs, 3 flashes, and plenty of ammo. No drones at her disposal, though, and that's probably the most important thing right now. She won't be able to gather any of that intel herself, so it's going to be a bit of a tough time for her. And it looks like she's probably just going to see out the round, maybe try and bait some aggression from UX, but manages to flash himself there. Not a great start. Second flash goes in, but he should be swiftly shut down here, really. And there we have it. The C4 flying out from Chris is enough to deal with him. And yeah, not much to be said about that other than they tried to rush and they failed.
Yeah, it is pretty rough going, as this is now, I think, the second Regnant rush that has been attempted. Or rather, yeah, no, the second Regnant rush that was attempted that did not work out for them, as it is pretty rough going. But we'll have to, we'll now have to see how UX wants to try and make this bar cocktail defense work again. There is going to be a different attack setup at least from Regnant. No more smoke plant rush type deal here, as it is going to be, excuse me, they're pretty standard attack setup, all things considered.
Yeah, and once again, we're on this top floor with the same layout here. These shields, probably, I'd imagine they're actually going to be challenged this time around because we saw Regnant attempt their um, strategy with the Capital and with the gridlock last round, but because of the way that UX were able to set up, they know that there's so much freedom for themselves inside of Piano. It's a it just meant that there was so much control for Yellow in Yellow Stairs and in under those hatches in Cigar Shop that as soon as that drop came through, they were basically walking into a crossfire. And I've said that before, but it's maybe on the cards now this time that Regnant have brought the utility that they usually would to deal with a sort of more standard piano hold, and maybe they're going to actually have a crack at going for this push from piano. We see all the attackers making their way to the roof, which is not really indicative of anything in particular because that's how you start on every attack a lot of the time, but they're going to be opening up these hatches, and that would suggest that they're maybe a bit more open to dropping them this time round.
Yeah, so definitely a lot slower, not as much window play, and not as much focus from this hatch. So, like we've been saying, a lot slower of a start and a lot more cautious. We're going to see also, interestingly, there's been a good bit of Maestro play so far from UX, which we haven't really seen from them on, we didn't really see it on Border. And not to mention, too, Regnant didn't really pick Maestro much on Border themselves. So, one of the usually one of the top operators that gets contested a lot and picked a lot for his strength in both gadget and weapon. Uh, Maestro's been seeing a quiet day, but Louis is going to stay quiet for the rest of this round. Lucania able to pick him up early on there. The Goyo damage nerf be damned, able to finish that one off, as now this attack is being stalled out because of the constant pressure from the Wamai discs here.
Yeah, this is a real tough nut to crack for Regnant. They're trying to actually bulldoze their way through. Perhaps a little bit more focus on the site itself and maybe just holding off any players from potentially swinging around into piano and taking them that way would be the way to play it right here. Because obviously they've reinforced the rotate between bathroom and freezer, so you know that defenders on that side are basically cut off from influencing the site anywhere besides going back all the way to white anyway. So it's a bit of a longer rotate. That being said, it's a free rotate because no one's repelling on white stairs, which is a bit of a questionable uh, positional choice, I suppose, from Regnant. But they've only got 26 seconds left now, and not enough ground gained, really. These Evil Eyes still proving a problem. He's not going to be risky and expose it to any shots from the defenders, from the attackers, because it's going to cost him the Evil Eye itself. Scorpio finding one, but Pangoro replies. Pelican with another, and then he goes down. Pangoro doing work here with his Aldo, the triple kill on the round. And now it's all up to Scorpio in the 1 versus 3 with 3 seconds left. There's not a hope in hell here. The Doc swings around, takes him out. Rabinchu claiming that final kill after some pretty hefty work there being done by the Maestro.
Yeah, great job there by Pangoro. Constantly pestilent with those cams, zapping away. Mostly specifically Pelican, just down to a sliver of HP. But now we're going to see a kitchen service attempted again here by UX, as it is the only site currently unlocked for them, as they're trying to close out this defensive half pretty on themselves. And like we were saying that first round, even though we didn't get to point out much because of that smoke rush and attempt, um, that hold and piano kind of just locked out the attack. They didn't deal with it correctly. They didn't know really how to deal with it, and they were unable to particularly handle this the double shield setup alongside the bathroom and all the Wamai discs and the Jaeger ADSs everywhere. And generally, it was just such an obnoxious setup. But away from that, we're headed down here to kitchen service. As I said, I think it's going to be a couple of C4 holes, some peak holes, feet holes, various holes set up around the soft walls around the map here for UX to try and get as much information as possible, as well as make rotating for themselves as comfortable as possible. But I wonder how Regnant is going to have to try and break apart this attack this time.
Yeah, it's going to be a
Defense, my
tough
bad.
one. Defense, yeah, it's going to be a tough one for them to find a way through. They have struggled really with these setups from UX, and it's clearly well thought out setups. They're not just taking any sort of stock defense that they've seen elsewhere and replicating it. They're actually putting a bit of work into it by the looks of things, because there's a lot of small details that are going to this that I haven't seen sort of that prominently. It's not like the sort of go-to strategy on any of these sites that they've brought so far. So clearly a comfortable cafe side, and the scoreline would show that. They also had the benefit, I guess, of Regnant going for that odd attack strategy in the first round, because Regnant didn't really know how to take the top floor. They didn't have a first go at it. They had a first go at it with a sort of odd strategy, and then they had to sort of try it again, but come face to face with those shields for the first time and not really know what to do about them properly.
Yeah, so it's going to have to be a slow attack here once again from Regnant. This entire attack is very cautious, but Sky Nexus is going to be able to calm or break apart that silence here. A nice nade, I think, over that lattice work there,
Oh
up
wow, yeah.
over to the bar, but very obnoxious here. Pangoro has not been untouched at all. He remains untouched until now. Rabinchu goes down as well. One tap able to swing out wide and refrag on the Sky Nexus, getting him back for the Valkyrie kill. But now Sight is firmly in control here for Regnant. Just a minute left, but Lucania able to get Monster back. Pelican able to get back on a one tap here as the plant goes down.
Oh, nice double kill there on the round for Lucania, and there's one attacker still left upright, Pelican, but he's so far from the site and the diffuser's being stuck. There's no way he can get round in time, and Pangoro holding the angle claims the kill. Pelican unfortunately just far too distant from that plant. And the swift double kill in the post plant completely wrong footing the Nomad there.
Yeah, really good job there. So was even though the Valkyrie went down pretty early on with a nice C4 or a nice grenade, my bad. It was a really good showing generally there from both Lucania and Pangoro lurking back. So good on uh good on UX for keeping the vigil away from things. And I mean, there's no way around it. Pretty pretty bad job of Regnant, even with the barcode scan on the side of their drone screens. I don't know why I blanked on that part of all things. On the side of the drone screens showing the Vigil's ability, it's interesting that they just completely gave up searching for him. Um, Especially considering that it seems like that main floor was droned out a lot by Regnant. And at that point, that first floor and probably up to the second floor, there's I guess they just gave up droning at some point and we're kind of just like, he has to be on one of these, the middle floor or the bottom floor. He can't, there's definitely no way I think that they were thinking that he could be upstairs on the piano platform, just prone chilling out, I guess. So we'll
Yeah,
have to
well,
see now.
I suppose one of the reasons you do see a sort of very lateral attack onto the bottom floor sometimes is that once you have swept the top floor and managed to push down to the bottom, let's say you do a full roam clear from top to bottom, you still have three staircases to have to watch and make sure that players don't somehow sneak their way up them. It's a bit of a difficult site to kind of flank hold effectively, even when you have got the or a difficult floor to flank hold effectively, even when you have taken the top two. Um, so yeah, it's just it plays out a little bit differently than a lot of other maps here. Rabinshu's underneath players inside of Piano, and we see the IQ trying to hard counter him there. C4 going off in the wildest of locations, but I think that was just a bit of a Hail Mary from Rabinshu as he's fled into 90 now. But he is going to be being scanned by the IQ, presumably, as she can continue to hunt for him. One Tep Heck hold up inside of Heaven, and Monster's going to find the kill onto him. Now they just need to worry about this player at the top of White. But tosses a C4 out, manages to damage Louis fairly significantly, but gets away with his life. And now Chris retreating back down the stairs. No damage done really to the attack, and I say that, but Rabinshu does manage to find one. Scorpio going down, that's your hard breach. Not necessarily the most important on this site, but still a fairly big loss, and she may have also been carrying some pretty useful stun grenades, and of course, that deadly Type 89.
Yeah, another pick there by Lucania onto Monster as Pelican is down pretty low thanks to Pangoro's shotgun here. But now the rest of the attack is going to have to make do with two members below half, and Skynex is tagged up. Now Pelican is back on 1 health. Rough going for him, as so is Louis. So this is really bad going now for Regnant, as at least Pelican's able to even things out in terms of operators here, but two men on 1 health and one below 75 against three full health members is not really rough. The I guess the UMP's rate of fire doesn't really matter, as if he can just land a single bullet on either member, things are rough. But now, oh, the flank from above, this could be massive, as Pelican is forced to get off the plant. He has to put it down now, but Chris from behind able to get one, misses the first knife, gets the second, confirms a fifth round and a double kill for himself. And good going there for the side of the attack or the defense.
Yep, UX seeing that one out in a pretty convincing fashion, and it all came down to really how effectively they were managed to waste that time on the top floor. Uh, Not necessarily even doing that great a job of finding the picks up there. Um, Eventually they came, but really, UX Gaming didn't have too much time to work with getting the floor open and trying to find the anchors. And when you're fighting down onto defenders that really haven't had to do much all round, they've got all of their utility in pocket, they've got all of their um, locations still unknown, and full HP ready to take those fights. They had to spend so much of their own utility on the top floor, and uh, it was basically just kind of walking right into where Regnant wanted them. That cocktail um, control from above can only get you so much when it's all completely destructible and you've got like 2 or 3 C4s to worry about as well. So we are
It is.
seeing another attempt here. Oh no, sorry, I'm mistaking myself. This is of course the second half. We have a split of 5-1 for UX Gaming, and a very solid one at that. UX looking to take this all the way and go 2-0 overall in the series. Regnant do need to put together now all of the rounds that they can muster to try and get anything from this match.
Yeah, we're gonna have to. I don't think UX is gonna roll this attack. I think it is just gonna end up being a pretty uncomfortable attack, as we saw from Regnant, but it's gonna end up definitely going the distance and being pretty long and pretty rough going, as attacking Cafe usually is. So fast paced aggression though, as Pangoro rushes his way on into Cigar there, as now it is Monster trying to create some pressure downstairs as he ran out from the cafe and bakery side, but now the attack is coming on full push. And this is something we didn't really see come out from Regnant on the attack. And this is something that I think works the best on attacking Bar Cocktail is if you are able to secure white stairs, you effectively cleave the defense most often in half between the players stuck in Pixel and Bathroom and the players over in Cocktails. So we'll have to see if UX can be able to confirm this for themselves here, as now it is Monster pushing his way back up to site, I believe, after that.
Yeah, so attackers interestingly pushing in here through Fireplace, and Wantepek deciding that's a bit too hot for him, expecting the fire from White Stairs through that softened up the wall, and decides to bail out the window. So a bit of ground gained and then lost, really, for the attackers, unfortunately for them. They reposition here as Louis manages to find Lucania, but this repel for one tap head could net him a kill potentially if the defenders are unaware. Rabinshu finding Louis, and one tap head just biding his time on that window, but they would have heard him inside a Maestro spot, so Pelican's not going to be going out into heaven anytime soon. 28 seconds left on the round now. One-Tepek once again repositioning, going up to that skylight position. And Rubinshu holding the diffuser can attempt to plant here through this breach hole, but immediately shut down by Pelican from range with that TCSG. And no, only 15 seconds left. The diffuser dropped in that breach. And this is really looking pretty dire for the attack. They've got basically no option but to jump in. Scorpio is going to tear right through one step heck as he attempts that, and now looking like a pretty solid Regnant round there. Defenders doing an astute job of just locking that one out with basically no sweat broken whatsoever.
Yeah, so there's no real way past it. It's just a pretty uncomfortable attack so far for UX, as they did take a while, and then after the opening pick from Louis onto Lucania, it's rough going thereafter, as the attack really stalled out, and now down to reading Fireplace is similar tough to attack site just because it's almost like you're attacking that bar cocktail site all over again until the last minute or so. You're clearing out up top and focusing all your time and efforts up top, and it's just very obnoxious to have to deal with. So
Yeah,
we're
I
gonna.
think in our first play day, I think I got to cast with you. In fact, I got to cast London Esports versus well, they were then Pat to Sleep. They're now Vex Gaming, but this was a map that really highlighted, especially at that point when it was a bit fresher to everyone, how effective the sort of utility soak meta was, and especially on those top floor holds and on the reading room holds, it was just slog after slog, like every round going all the way to the final seconds, and very little hope for the attackers. And I mean, we might be seeing a very defender-sided cafe because it seems to be the map to go to if you want to waste time, especially on those reading holds, like I mentioned. And yeah, maybe it isn't actually beyond Regnant's capabilities to actually pull this one all the way back.
Yeah, I would have to agree. It's not out of that realm of possibility just with how defender swung we've seen Cafe in the past, and not even in the past, really, in this match so far. UX has been able to clutch out what seemed like matches for themselves to, or rather, rounds for themselves that they shouldn't be able to get back in. But now, very early on, Chris goes down the hands of Louis, a C4, able to get that one. So already a really rough start here for UX.
We've got a pretty strong hold here inside of Train for once, which is not often seen. Skynex is going to be bailing out of the White Stairs and finding One Tep Heck as he comes up there. IQ and Zofia out of the picture, and these track stingers are doing nothing to deter um, anyone coming up these stairs right now. Scorpio finding the head of Lucania, and now it's a 2 versus 5. And Pangoro Rabinchu, I mean, this is looking even more dire than the previous round right now.
It is indeed. Things are looking really rough as now it's just Pangoro and Rabinchu, as you said. It's 1-on-2. And now you have to make a push into a site area that you've clearly shown to be very uncomfortable on and very uncomfortable attacking with only two guys, one of which happens to be a thermite into a Goyo Wamai Jaeger and uh, smoke downstairs. There's no real information for the side of UX, as it's just Rubinshu's two drones he has in his pocket. Pangoro has none.
Yeah, they can consider this target practice at this point in time. It's going to be Pangoro the first to go down to Louis, and now Rabinchu, who's still on the roof, just seeing out the timer. Again, another one of these rounds that comes down to basically an extended timeout for UX as they maybe look to find another way to get their to get this match onto match point.
This is really trying to bring it back here. So they're making it work so far. And the onus at this point is really on, uh, or rather, sorry, Regnant is really trying to bring it back. And now the onus is really on UX here to try and pick something up and bring it ahead and finish out this match. So even though they had the really good 5-1 start, things are just generally not looking so hot for them anymore.
We've mentioned it before, but there's the importance of Zofia as well on the attacking lineup. And whenever she's the first to go down in this current meta, you really do worry for the attack because she brings so much unique utility and destruction to the side that, and such a good gun as well, that you just, as soon as she's gone, they basically, there's so little that the attackers can do about most of the utility that the defense are bringing. speaking of utility, we're actually going to see UX bringing the gridlock this time around. It's not just a little pocket pick of Regnants. Um, and these smokes and track stingers, obviously, they were brought last time round as well. But perhaps if Lucania isn't picked off so early, those smoke grenades that also One Tap Heck is bringing on the Jackal could be of great assistance to them.
Yeah, so back to more smoke focus here from the attacks. The Jackal we don't really see. There's just no way around it. Constantly bringing it up. The Some of these operators that did see a lot of play previously, specifically these smoke grenade operators, just because they afforded so much for the plant. It's pretty interesting that they've just fallen out of favor, fallen out of the meta. So um yeah, it's just really sad to see that a lot of operators that are very strong, or at least were considered very strong, um, they just don't see that play anymore.
So it looks like we're having a little bit of an issue with the clean feed. Once again, apologies. We should be getting back into the game fairly shortly. But I can see actually from our sort of backup that we've got a 4 versus 4, and Pangoro having gone down early, but Scorpio being refragged by Lucania, and One Tap Heck just going to be pushing through reading right now, trying to find any footprints on any defenders that may well have retreated from this floor in the early round, but he's not going to be finding anything. Interestingly, without the sledge on the board, it's going to be up to One Tep Heck and Chris to work the floors, and indeed, obviously, from the defender's perspective, the ceilings here. Try and get these picks, but a C4 coming out there from Sky Nexus does manage to claim Christ. And it's a 3 versus 4 now. 52 seconds left or so, and we've got still very little going for the attackers right now. They're struggling round after round here. It looks like it's going to be an attempt at a B site take, but with no they do have the thermite able to open up the freezer, so this could be the thing that works for them. But 27 seconds left on the board, and that freezer breach is indeed open now. They need to find a pick or two inside sight before they can start leveraging these, and they do have they do have 2 sets of smokes to use. Lucania finds a frag there, 15 seconds left, and it's a 3 versus 3, but the smoke canisters are coming out. It's all chaos right here as Lucania trying to force his way in through, and Rabinchu can begin the plant behind the bomb, but he's met with resistance as no, One Tep Heck manages to shut down a defender, but there we have Lucania with the triple kill on the round. Rabinchu's managing to plant now. Oh my god. What a clutch there. A quad kill from Sky Nexus. What incredible reactions. It was basically flipbook mode right here for us, but I can tell that that was incredible for you guys to see. Oh my goodness. Incredible stuff there from Sky Nexus. Quad kill on the round and the defuse. So good from him.
Yeah, absolutely massive clutch up there by Sky Nexus, able to make it happen, clutch up the round, win out here for Regnant as they keep on winning. Their winning ways are just going. So good on them, as now it is up to 5-4, and we're having a little bit of a player load issue and some live feed stuff. So we'll have to get back to the game once that's cleared. But now that perfect site triangle has continued once again for the defense. Now 3 defenses in a row for Regnant, confirming that, bring themselves from a 5-1 back to a well tied, or well, pretty close game. So good on them there.
Yep.
I mean,
So we
looking
have
at it, you we had UX have a perfect sight triangle before Regnant nearly came back on them. So do you think on border rather? Um, do you think the same type of thing can happen this time? Do you think it just took a UX having to see Regnant's strats?
Yeah, it's entirely possible. And I mean, we called it at the start of the half that this is definitely doable for Regnant. And once again, we're back at almost level pegging with these two very evenly matched sides. That last map did go to 7-5, so I would not be surprised at all to see this end a draw or a 7-5. It looks like at the moment, X Gaming still just ahead, but definitely the momentum is with the defense of Regnant. So, bar defense now, second time of asking for Regnant, and we're seeing a drop come in from one tech Hex. Is going to be the first to pressure in through this red stairs drop. Track stingers out to deter any roamers, but Pangoro looks like he wants to go on the hunt himself, and he's got one tech Hex in tow. There's actually no one down here, so they won't be finding anyone anytime soon. Monster is the closest point of contact there, sat on White Stairs himself. Meanwhile, upstairs, we may be getting a bit of engagement potentially, but Monster's spraying away through the fireplace or through the dining hall wall, trying to deter any entrance from fireplace. And now he knows he just has to fight that angle from reading room, but he's actually still in position. Pangoro just beneath the site. He can try and use this position to fight players above him, but he will be worried about that Jaeger on the stairs. One Tep Hex going to get the pinch on him, though, it looks like, as this castle barricade won't be a problem for the sledgehammer of One Tep Hex, but he will have to react quickly to capitalize on it. And there we have Monster trying to take this fight. The first grenade sails in, but One Tep Hex just faster on the reaction there as Monster goes down. The hard ping's coming out on the players on Cocktail, and Pangoro lighting up one of them, almost Scorpio going down, but not enough for him, as now Pangoro can come up these stairs, and he hears the player right at the top. He sees the arm and lands the headshot onto Pelican, and that's a second kill on the round for UX, but Louis manages to find one Tep Hex, taking this to a 4 versus 3. 35 seconds left, and all of the utilities being spammed in multiple directions. Here we go, C4 coming out, won't connect as it's shot out of midair, but Scorpio finds Rabinchu, and then immediately Pangoro refragging, and a nice triple kill on the round as he shuts down the castle. A triple in succession and a quad overall. What was that from Pangoro? These reactions. Nice work with the pistol.
Let me try and reconnect to feed.
So I think we might have been having a few issues there. I do hope that you did get to see that at home. We just came off the back of UX managing to successfully attack that top floor. Basically, Pangoro sweeping in, getting a big triple kill at the end of the round and a quad for himself overall. Just coming up White Stairs and dismantling the defense in Cocktail that Regnant had set up. But that pushes UX Gaming onto match point. Regnant now still just fighting for their first point of the Playday. They came so close on border, and are they going to fall short yet again on Cafe? That is the question.
Yeah, so we'll have to see if the full, what is it, 6 points I think can be locked out here for UX, or if Regnant is going to complete the comeback. But so we'll definitely have to see how Regnant wants to hold these next two sites. They did work out pretty well here on reading Fireplace. Actually, they worked out fantastically last time around, if I remember. They had everyone but one up alive at the end. if not, actually no, it was this was the flawless round basically, where it was Rabinshu holding alone up on the roof at the end of things. So this one worked out fantastically. It was, in fact, the kitchen defense that was really rough, but wow,
Oh,
what a shot by Louis on the one tap. Talk about a one tap, taking down the Jackal, who has not been having a great time today. He's died in all but one round so far. Things are
that
not
angle is
looking so good for him.
that angle was so dirty. I've got to see that again. I'm going to go back and rewatch that and use that in the future because that will get you a few kills here and there, I reckon. It's odd to have that wall completely softened up. It wasn't completely softened up; it was slightly open. But either way, we're seeing a lot of stuns come out to try and burn all the utility, catch Wamai out off guard. Obviously, you want to be doing this as quickly as possible so that he doesn't accumulate those frisbees as much over time. He's going to be sitting right back here in Cocktail, coming under a lot of pressure, and the defense has been pushed back quite far up here. Obviously, this is the reading room defense, so you can expect this kind of hold, but if they can get a pick or two while they're up here, then that's a massive boon for the defense and will keep Regnant well and truly alive in this game. Chris is going to be met with some crossfire from the bathroom, but nothing too damaging there. He still sits on about 80 HP.
Yeah, it's still pretty slow going on this attack, especially considering that it's been a 4v5 for about a minute and a half of it. The attack is going to start to get some ground here, but no, swinging out. Scorpio not able to make it work. Lucania able to pick him up as Chris picks up another as well. And now the attack is working out pretty well. They're gaining ground where they need to. And it's Sky Nexus, Louis, and Pelican here all on their lonesome downstairs in that second floor here as UX is trying to confirm some more round or their seventh round here actually and get these points confirmed for themselves. But it is still looking pretty rough going as they don't have very much ground. All the smoke grenades are still, or rather one smoke grenade is still up for Pelican as the other is going down. Pangoro is taken down to half as Louis takes a single bullet for his troubles, but the plant can come down pretty freely here. Pangoro trades out for Louis as Pelican picks up Lucania, but Pangoro for two, and from above, Chris confirms the round. While things did look a bit scary at the end this second half, it did just take seeing them the first time through for UX to be able to confirm it. 7-4 after a 7-5 win. They lock out a full amount of points here on the half. Lara Croft shows off a bit, and now it is shut out. So we are now jumping out of it. Yeah.
So that was pretty convincing stuff from UX Gaming. They've won 2-0 on the day. And as you see now below, we've got these beautiful match replays running through courtesy of our wonderful producer, Trix. Big shout out to him. And also big shout out to Medics who managed to show up and be our shining, knight in shining armor for the evening. Did a wonderful job as ever, spectating as the king himself would do. So yeah, we have had a great night here, marred somewhat by technical issues, but I'm assured that that wasn't just our faults. We had apparently there's a lot of internet issues all around at the moment, and yeah, so we've been fighting a good